82-year-old Thomas Reed, a veteran with hair as white as freshly fallen snow and a quiet air of resilience, was out on his usual morning walk. His weathered denim jacket, adorned with patches and insignias from his military days, told a story of dedication and service. On this particular day, Thomas decided to stop by a small, rustic diner called Sonny's Hearth, known for its fluffy pancakes and hearty breakfasts. Though he had passed it countless times, he thought, why not give it a try today? He didn't realize this simple choice would ripple through the town in unexpected ways. Imagine seeing someone refused a meal, not because of what they've done, but because of who they are. What would you do? This is a tale of quiet defiance, unforeseen allies, and the power of community. A story about how one man's unwavering dignity sparked a transformation in a sleepy town. It was a crisp autumn morning in Pinewood Hollow, a town nestled between rolling hills and dense forests. The streets were dappled with golden sunlight, and the scent of dew hung in the air. It was the kind of day that made everything seem peaceful. But even in a seemingly idyllic place, prejudices can lurk beneath the surface. As Thomas pushed open the diner door, a small bell jingled overhead. The warmth of the place greeted him immediately. Wooden beams, checkered tablecloths, and the aroma of sizzling bacon and freshly brewed coffee. Families filled the booths, chatting over pancakes and eggs, while servers weaved through the tables with plates in hand. Thomas chose a small table near the window, where he could watch the amber leaves drifting in the breeze. A young waitress named Clara approached, her notepad ready and her smile bright. "Good morning, sir. What'll it be today?" Thomas returned the smile. "Pancake stacks, sausage links, scrambled eggs, and black coffee, if you don't mind." Clara nodded. "Coming right up." But not everyone in the diner was welcoming. Behind the counter, the owner, Gerald Harper, watched with narrowed eyes. Gerald was a burly man with a permanent scowl and an air of authority. He stepped out from behind the register, his boots echoing on the wooden floor as he marched toward Thomas's table. "You can't sit here," Gerald said, his tone gruff. The room fell silent. Conversation stopped, forks paused midair, and eyes turned toward Thomas. Thomas looked up calmly, his gaze steady. "And why's that?" "This is my diner, and I say who's welcome," Gerald snapped, his voice louder now. "You're not." Clara froze mid-step, her tray shaking in her hands. Other diners exchanged uneasy glances, but no one spoke. In the back corner, however, a group of motorcyclists, clad in leather jackets bearing the Pinewood Riders emblem, watched intently. The four men had the rugged appearance of travelers who'd seen their fair share of challenges. Thomas leaned back in his chair, his voice measured but firm. "I've fought for this country. I've earned the right to enjoy a meal like any other man. I won't be leaving unless you force me." Gerald's fists clenched, and for a moment, it seemed like he might escalate things further. But then came the scraping sound of chairs sliding across the floor. It wasn't Thomas who stood. It was the bikers. The tallest of them, a broad-shouldered man with a salt and pepper beard named Jack, strode forward, his boots heavy against the wooden planks. The other three followed close behind, their presence commanding the room. Jack positioned himself between Gerald and Thomas. "If you touch him," Jack said, his voice calm but unyielding, "you'll have to deal with us." The room held its breath. Gerald hesitated, his bravado cracking under the weight of the biker's silent challenge. He glanced around, realizing the other patrons weren't on his side. A few had their phones out, recording the confrontation. Jack stepped closer, his gaze locked on Gerald. "This man wore the uniform for all of us. He deserves better than this. You want to fight? You're picking the wrong one." Gerald's face turned crimson, but he took a step back, muttering curses under his breath as he stormed into the kitchen. The tension in the room eased, and a few patrons clapped softly. Jack turned to Thomas, his expression softening. "Sir, enjoy your breakfast. Nobody's going to bother you now." Thomas tipped his head slightly. "Thank you, son." By the next morning, the video of the incident had gone viral, spreading across social media like wildfire. Headlines read, "Veteran stands his ground. Community rallies behind him." Comments poured in from across the country, praising the bikers for their solidarity and condemning the diner owner's actions. Within a week, Sonny's Hearth closed its doors. But that wasn't the end of the story. Jack and his fellow riders pooled their resources and bought the diner, reopening it under a new name, Unity Café. The revamped establishment quickly became a beacon of inclusivity, decorated with photos of veterans, bikers, and community members from all walks of life. At the grand reopening, the café was packed. Thomas sat in his usual spot by the window, a warm smile on his face, as he shared a table with Jack and his crew. "How's the coffee?" Jack asked with a grin. "Stronger than the service I got last time," Thomas replied, his eyes twinkling. They laughed and clinked their mugs together. The once divided town now had a new gathering place, and Thomas's quiet act of defiance became the cornerstone of a brighter, more united Pinewood Hollow. The Unity Café became more than just a diner. It turned into a symbol of the community's transformation. Where tension and division once lingered, the café now thrived as a space where people from all walks of life shared meals, stories, and laughter. Veterans found a sense of camaraderie over their morning coffee. Families gathered around for hearty breakfasts, and the bikers, once seen as rough outsiders, became local heroes and caretakers of the café's mission. Thomas Reed visited the café regularly, his usual table by the window unofficially renamed Thomas's Corner. It became a gathering spot for those inspired by his quiet strength. People often stopped by to shake his hand, share their gratitude, or ask him to recount his story. Thomas, ever humble, would smile and say, "It wasn't just me. It was all of us." The café's new owners, Jack and his biker crew, were dedicated to keeping its message alive. They organized charity drives for local veterans, hosted town meetings to encourage open dialogue, and ensured no one left the café without feeling welcome. The menu even featured a dish called Thomas's Breakfast, named after the order that sparked the change: pancakes, sausage links, scrambled eggs, and black coffee. But the real change extended beyond the café walls. The video of Thomas's stand and the bikers' intervention continued to circulate online, inspiring similar movements in other towns. Messages poured in from across the nation. "Your story gave me courage. We need a Unity Café here." This reminded me that one act of kindness can make a difference. Pinewood Hollow itself began to shift. Gerald Harper, the former diner owner, left town shortly after selling the business. His departure left a void, but it also marked the end of an era of exclusion. The townsfolk, once hesitant to speak out against prejudice, now stood together with renewed purpose. A town council member proposed a community initiative aimed at fostering inclusivity, and Jack was invited to help lead it. One sunny afternoon, the café hosted a celebration to honor Thomas and all he represented. The mayor gave a heartfelt speech, presenting Thomas with a plaque recognizing his courage and unwavering dignity. Thomas, visibly moved, stood to address the crowd. "It's not about me," he began, his voice steady but emotional. "It's about what we all did together. In my life, I've seen enough darkness to know how important it is to shine a light. This café, this town, you've shown me that no matter how tough things get, change is always possible when good people stand together." The crowd erupted into applause, and Jack placed a hand on Thomas's shoulder, a gesture of quiet respect. As the celebration wound down, Thomas sat at his table, watching as families, bikers, and townsfolk mingled with ease. He sipped his coffee, savoring the rich aroma and the hum of unity around him. Sometimes, change starts with a small stand, just one moment of courage. But when others rise to join, that spark can light a fire that burns away the old and makes room for something new. In Pinewood Hollow, that fire wasn't just lit. It became the heart of the town, a reminder that standing together isn't just powerful, it's transformative. As Thomas gazed out the window, the sun dipped low, casting a golden glow over the café. He smiled, knowing the seeds of unity he had planted would flourish for generations.